In this drawer we have something very special. Sitting on some windlace, some foam, some burlap, etc. Just because that's all nice and cushy. Because what you're looking at are two correct headlight lenses for a 1935 Hupmobile 527T. They're basically made of unobtainium, but we've got the pair we need. Here we have one of the headlight retainer rings for those giant lenses I showed you in the first segment. There's one for each headlight lens. These are not something that show on the outside of the vehicle. There is a chrome trim piece that goes over it, but this retains that very rare lens on each side of the car. This one you can see somebody's primed. Here's what they did. They primed it right over rust. Okay, that can't be done with any normal paint. In this video, we're going to show you how to clean this up, and then we're going to show you the Frankenstein method of power derusting at home. Something anybody can do with some basic equipment. Stay tuned.
Let's visit Dr. Frankenstein's lab.
Here we have power derusting occurring in pickle number 1, which we're about to explain to you how this is done. Having seen in general what we're going to do, now you need to know how this works, how to set it up. That's what we're going to go through. Right here we have something that you absolutely are going to need, which is muriatic acid. For those who don't know, this is often called pool acid. If you've been in a pool, you've been around muriatic acid. We're not going to use it full strength in this process. We have here a 2.5 gallon bucket. You could just as well have a 5 gallon bucket like I've got there. Part of the importance here though is having a bucket you can have a lid on. And the actual lid we use here, but we also have a lock ring, which I've got right there. The reason for the lock ring is you would put that lid on and put that lock ring on to keep children out of this, and the lock ring even has a place where you could, if necessary, put on a padlock. In my case, there's no chance of children being in my machine shop. There aren't any around, they're here, so I technically don't have to lock it, but I do keep the lock ring on there and could if I have to, so keep that in mind. And you're going to need an acid solution in this case. You're going to use the muriatic acid and you're going to use water. The water has to be at the following ratio. You need 15 parts water to 1 part acid. You'll put your water into your tank you're using, in this case this bucket, 2.5 gallons. You could be measuring in cups, you could be measuring in liters. It doesn't make a difference. Remember I said it's 15 parts water to 1 part acid. You put the water in first. You always add acid to water, never the other way around, always acid to water. So put your 15 parts of water in, then put your 1 part of acid. It will all depend on how big the container you're using is. But you need that ratio to do this process, because what you're doing is making something that's called pickle number 1, which is also something we can use in plating. And in this case, we're going to deplate something. We're going to remove the rust, and we're also going to remove some of the steel at the same time. You can't avoid that. But mostly we're after getting the rust off the part. So if you set up that ratio, you put your negative side, which is going to be your cathode. That is where you're going to collect the rust and some steel, but mostly the rust. onto because you're going to take it off your part. So we're actually deplating the part of rust and some of the steel in this case. So that's your anode. That gets to be the positive side. So the part is on the positive side. The cathode, what you're plating to, is on the negative side. Now what you're going to use for power, I will show you in the video my power supply. You can use a power supply like this or something similar. You can use batteries. You could use a battery charger, for example. In all cases, you're going to pay attention to what I have up on that machine because you have to be in that range to do a real good job of this. Remember, we're trying to remove rust from pits more than anything. You'll see we're going to mechanically remove most of the surface rust, but it's the rust in the pits you really want to get out, and therefore you're going to want to be in the range that I'm kind of showing you for the part size I've got. The bigger the part, the more you would have to have for power to do the job, but this amount will work very well for the size part we're working on. And this is the type of thing you have to do before you would ever even plate something. If you're going to turn this into a show chrome job, the next thing we want to do is get ready to put on copper. But you can't do that unless the part's perfectly clean. Well, if we make the part perfectly clean, it's going to be perfect when we paint it too, isn't it? So that's what the process is about. This is a power method of doing this. So watch through the video, you'll see how to do it. And remember what I told you about how to set this up. And don't forget, you'll see me wearing gloves. Because you're going to work around acid, it's going to be quite dilute. But if you have a cut or something in your hands, you'll know when you get it in the acid. Don't forget the nitrile gloves. Watch the rest of the video, see what this does. It's a really cool process. Here we have our piece, which we've already done our manual rust removal on. You always want to do that because really what you're trying to do is get rid of all that rust, because you're trying to take it out of the pits and get the rest of the rust that will not manually come off easily off the part. I'm going to put a loop up here. It's just a stainless steel wire. We're going to suspend the part in the tank. You want to make sure you get the part completely underneath the liquid. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is you're going to get a line in your part, because this removes everything, but we're trying to get the rust off. And if you don't put it, like I said, down under the liquid, it'll remove some of the steel right along a line where it's part above and part below the liquid. So now we're going to turn it on, and we're going to set a timer, because you want to come back and check this in 30 minutes, because this is a very vigorous process, especially at the power setting I'm using. Voltage and amperage in use on pickle number 1 at this time. At the 30-minute mark, took it out, rinsed it in fresh water completely, then took a kitchen scrubber, metallic stainless steel kitchen scrubber, just scrubbed it down, dried it off with air from an air gun so it was thoroughly dry, and then give it a light once over with a Scotch-Brite pad. So I'm going to bring it up and show you. A lot of the rust is gone already, but you can also see areas that we've got tremendous amounts left. But in 30 minutes, you look at this side in particular, we have a tremendous amount of it gone here. We're going to put it back in, but this side has the most gone. That's because it was the closest to our collector. So we're going to put it the other side towards the collector this time. You do want to flip the object, because otherwise you could eat up one side of the object completely while not getting the other side derusted. So you always want to flip sides back and forth. Also, turn it top to bottom. Now this time I didn't, but it's going to have to go through a couple more times, so at some point I will turn it top to bottom also. So we're going to give it another 30 minutes and then check it. For the last 30 minutes, you'll notice that I have moved the collector to the center of the bucket, utilizing a piece of wood and a couple of clamps. This will allow me to get the rest of the rust out of the inside corner. So I've got it facing upside down in that tank, out of the inside corner. When we're done, we'll have had a total of 2 hours derusting, but we'll have taken everything out of the pits in this part. Here you have a finished ring as far as the derusting is concerned. And you notice you can see in the surface, I'll bring it up closer, you can see all these little pits. They're not a big deal. We can take care of those in primer surfacer work. But all the rust is gone. Just as we've shown you in the video, you can do this at your own home shop without a lot of expensive equipment. You can save yourself a lot of time and get the rust completely out of the pits before you go to doing the finishing work on a part. Give this method a try. I think you're going to like the results. See you later.